Now, due to the recent Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC, I have been playing the game a lot, trying out the new tracks every time Nintendo drops another wave of this beautiful DLC, which I'm enjoying a lot so far. But due to this, I started thinking about the game. There are loads of items that you can use during the race, but which ones are the best, and which ones are the worst by far? Well, today we will look into all of this because we are going to rank every item in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And as you can imagine, this list will be based on my opinions and will not really be objective. I mean, it is my ranking after all, but once the video is over, be sure to leave your ranking in the comments down below. I am very curious. And now that we got that out of the way, let's get into this video. Now we will start from the very bottom and work our way up towards the best items in the game. And the first one that is going into the lowest tier is going to be the Crazy 8. An item where you get a bunch of different items all at once. Now, I'm not a big fan of this one because I find it too messy. You get a bunch of stuff and you can't really use them in any order you want, and so you're just randomly throwing stuff all over the place, which is not really useful, as you can imagine. A lot of times it just creates immense amounts of chaos, but you don't really get ahead. In general, it is just one gigantic mess, and I have no idea why Nintendo decided to add it. I really hope they won't include this in any future games, but luckily enough, in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, this item is quite rare, so I don't see it that often. Now for the next item that I would put in the F tier, it's going to be the coin. They can be found all over the track, and collecting them is a must, because the more you have, the faster you will go, which is very handy. But aside from that, they are quite useless. Sure, you can unlock stuff over time, but that's kind of it. And usually when you're in a race and you have 10 of them, collecting any more is kind of pointless. So yeah, the main reason why I don't like the coin that much is because it's a bit of a non-item. It will have a small influence on the whole race, but in the end, it's not a huge game changer like almost every other item seen in the game. Now for the last item that I would put in the F tier, it's going to be the Super Golden Mushroom, which is basically just a mushroom on steroids. It allows you to boost constantly, and therefore you go really fast. But it can also be quite hard to control, and in some maps it isn't that useful because there aren't any major shortcuts, or there are too many twists and turns, and therefore using the Super Golden Mushroom will just result in chaos. You will constantly bonk into walls and get nowhere, and if you want to avoid that, you barely use the Super Golden Mushroom at all, and so you are better off with a normal Super Mushroom or a triple Super Mushroom. So yeah, in my opinion, the Super Golden Mushroom is a bit overrated and not as useful as you would think. Now we are going to move a level up to E. Here I first put the Lightning Bolt, because while this item is very useful when you get to use it, it is incredibly annoying in every other circumstance. When you get hit by this thing, you are essentially screwed. You lose all your items, which is already a major blow. Aside from that, you're tiny all of a sudden, and so you're really slow, and any riders that were behind you become big earlier than you, and so they can squish you by driving over you. And all of this is incredibly annoying. Really, I'm not a big fan of the Lightning Bolt. It can really mess with the outcome of a race. Now the second thing I put on the E tier is the Star. This one is very handy, but again, it's a bit boring. Sure, you're faster and you can deal damage to enemies by just ramming into them, which can be quite fun, but aside from that, it is a bit plain Jane. Certainly better than the Super Golden Mushroom or the Crazy 8, but still, I wanted something more exciting than this. Now we move on to the D tier. Here I first put the Bullet Bill, and that's because it is kind of hands-free. It mostly does the work for you, but it does allow you to catch up, and you can actually steer it a bit, allowing you to hit racers along the way, which is actually something that a lot of people don't know. So the nice thing about it is the fact that you can take a break and effectively catch up, but aside from that, it is very much an autopilot item. So I wouldn't necessarily call it exciting. Now the next one on this tier is a powerful and fun item, but it can also be really annoying at times, the blue shell. And that's because it can really mess with the person who is in first place. But one thing that sometimes happens is that people get bombarded by blue shells the entire race. If they are far ahead, they will get 1, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 blue shells in one race, which is just beyond annoying. Sure, this happens because they are incredibly far ahead, but it is a bit overkill and a weird mechanic. So while the blue shell in this game isn't bad, because it also travels over the ground and therefore you can hit other opponents as well, you sometimes get completely bombarded with them, which is really annoying. And now for the last item on this tier, the piranha plant. This item basically gives you a piranha plant, and each time it bites, it gives you a speed boost. As you can imagine, the speed boosts are really handy, and the biting is really good to get rid of enemies in front of you. So for those reasons, I actually quite like it. And heck, it can even eat bloopers, which is really handy. Sure, you might be able to get past 1 or 2 people, but that's kind of it. The speed boosts you get aren't that good. The best thing about it is the biting, in my opinion. So yeah, my opinion on this one is a bit mixed. Now we get to the C tier. Here we have the fire flower, which basically allows you to shoot a bunch of little fireballs. Now one thing I always see when people get this item is the standard and classic spray and pray tactic. They will just throw a load of fireballs ahead of them. Really, they want to throw as many fireballs as they can. And I get why. It's really effective. It can be great for taking out a bunch of racers, especially if they're all close together. But it is also messy, and sometimes it isn't effective at all, because the balls will go everywhere and no one ends up getting hit. So really, sometimes you get the fire flower and you're left really disappointed because you hit no one at all, even though you did your best and threw as many fireballs as you humanly could. So again, I'm a bit mixed on this one. Now the next one on this tier is the blooper. This is a little squid creature who will fly in front of you and spit ink in your face, which will partially blind you. Personally, I find these quite annoying to deal with, but really it depends on the paint pattern and the track, because sometimes the paint that covers your face barely covers the screen, and so you can quite easily continue driving, especially if you know the map well. But other times the paint pattern is terrible and you barely see anything, and if you don't know the track, you're basically screwed. So especially new players hate this item. But then there are certain maps where you go underwater and something like a blooper isn't really that effective. Really, depending on the map and the people you're playing with, the blooper can get very mixed results. Now let's move on to the next tier, B. And here I put the boo item, which is basically a little ghost who will steal an item for you. And in the meantime, while it's stealing the item, you're invisible and won't take any damage. Now in the end, this item is more about the item you will get. Sometimes it will steal an item that is beyond amazing, and other times it will get you something that is quite mediocre, like a coin. So it's a bit of a gamble at times. But one great thing about it is the fact that you're invisible and you can't get hurt. This allows you to have a little break, and if you're lucky, someone will actually use the lightning item. If this happens, you are completely fine. You won't shrink, you won't lose your item, nothing will happen. And meanwhile, everyone around you will be at a disadvantage. If this happens, you can get ahead really quickly, which is super handy as you can imagine. And so for that reason, I quite like the boo item. Now the other item that I put on this tier is the banana, and that's because it's quite simple, but very useful for multiple things. You can use it to defend yourself by putting it behind your cart. This way you can block shots from green and red shells. But this isn't all. You can also use it offensively. Just throw it at somebody right in front of you, and if you're good, it lands exactly in front of them. If this happens, it's almost impossible to dodge the banana, and you will feel incredible because you pulled off an amazing trick shot. But that isn't even all. There's one other thing you can do. You can use it for traps. Just imagine you have 3 bananas and you're coming up on a corner that everybody takes in a certain way. Then you are in a position to place bananas in such a way that it will annoy everyone, which can help you win a race, especially if you're in first. And to be honest, it's also really fun to place a banana somewhere as a trap, and then 1 or 2 minutes later, you see your friend running right into it. Really, it's one of the best feelings koopalings ever. Now we move on to the upper echelon, the best items you can have in the game, according to me, because we are going to look at the A tier. And the first item I put here was the super horn. This is the best item you can have when you're in first place. Really, there is nothing better. It allows you to survive any type of trap. If there are bananas in front of you and you can't dodge them, then the super horn can get rid of them. If somebody throws a blue shell, the super horn will take care of it. And if people start bombarding you with red shells, again, the super horn will come to the rescue. Really, the super horn is amazing when it comes to this. And even when you're trying to gain up on people, you can use the super horn as an offensive weapon by unleashing it very close to them. And then they will get hit by the sonic blast, which can even hit multiple racers at once. So in general, the super horn is really handy. Now the second thing I put on the A tier is the mushroom. It is quite simple, but really effective, and it can sometimes allow you to win a race. For example, you can use the super mushroom to take a shortcut, which allows you to save loads of time. Or you can use it near the end of the race to get that little speed boost so you can come in first instead of second. Small things like that make the super mushroom really handy. Now the third item I put on the A tier is the red shell. This one is quite simple, but again, really good. It's just a green shell that automatically targets. It's quite simple, but really effective, mostly for offensive moves. But I will say, it is a bit boring. Now the last item I put on the A tier is the feather, which is an item that allows you to jump. Nothing more, nothing less. And this jumping, in my opinion, is really fun and is actually incredibly useful during battles. It allows you to hop around and so you can dodge items like green or red shells. In some maps, you can even use it to escape. For example, by jumping over an obstacle, or by going to a different part of the track by jumping over a barrier. Really, I love it for stuff like this. And now we move on to the S tier, where we will find the items that are the best in my opinion, and also the most fun to use. Now the first item here is the boomerang flower, which allows you to throw a boomerang 3 times, and the last one will actually continue flying onward. Now the fact that you can use it 3 times is already great, because this way you have multiple opportunities to take out racers and get ahead. And it's also fun that you get to aim it yourself. It's a little challenge, you know? And if you're good, you can hit enemies on the way forward and also on the way back. And so you took out multiple racers. And then when you're on the last throw, it will just continue, which again allows you to hit multiple people in one go. Really, if you get to use this during a race, it's a lot of fun. And if somebody uses it on you, it can be a very stressful experience, which is quite exciting on the other hand. Now the second item I have on the S tier is the green shell, which is just a shell you can throw. But in general, it's good for everything, both offense as well as defense. If somebody is bombarding you with stuff, you can just hold it behind you, and this way you will most likely survive. But the more fun thing is throwing it at other people, because it requires some skill to use well. You need to predict the other racer's movements so you can hit them with the shell, otherwise you will just miss. And another thing you can do, which is also really fun, is ricochet it off walls. This way you can hit people from the side, allowing you to bypass their defense, and sometimes you can even use it to hit somebody behind you. Just throw it forward and hit a wall, and just get out of the way as it ricochets back and hits the person behind you. I've done this multiple times and it's incredibly fun. Really, I'm a big fan of hitting those skill shots because it gives me an insane amount of dopamine. And now, for the best item, the last item I have on the S tier, the ultimate winner, the bomb. This item is amazing for screwing people over. Really, the amount of friends I have pissed off with this item is just nuts. Throwing this thing ahead and hitting somebody with it is the best feeling ever. And this isn't all. You can also throw it behind you and screw everyone over, especially if they're really packed together, because it has a blast radius. It is just a bomb after all, and so you can hit 4 or 5 people at the same time. So yeah, that's why I love the bomb. So that is my tier list, everybody. Look at it in all its glory with all the Mario Kart 8 items. And yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you think of it and what kind of tier list you would construct. Where would you put all the items? Let me know in the comments down below and I will look into them. It's going to be fun. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want more videos like this, please let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe, click the bell button, do all the good stuff, and then I will see all of you in the next video. Okay? Cool. Bye, everybody. Bye!